Hey folks, Valentin the Mad here, and today we'll be looking at all things character responses in Helldivers 2. That is bug gore, robot damage, and player deaths. We begin with the bugs. So, dismemberment wise, there is more detail here than I was expecting. For limbs, they'll come off at the joints, usually 3 points of amputation. Wings can come off. Some bugs can be cut in half. Bug behinds can explode. And they can be obliterated. Now this one is done almost right. You have it happen only when it is truly appropriate, you get stains covering a large area, once again very appropriate, and you also have some chunks spread around, but those will vanish. As for non-dismembering damage, you actually have a response at the point of impact for some of the larger bugs. Looks like a damage painting kind of technique. Not a particularly advanced implementation of it, but when you have it, it does deliver decent feedback. The key phrase though is when you have it. Small bugs won't have it, and even some of the large ones. As for the spinning, it is pretty basic. You usually have a stain pop up after the impact, but it won't always happen. Probably a chance thing. I imagine 70, maybe 80% chance of a stain spawning on the impact. The looks are alright. Definitely works for nasty bug blood, and it could deliver a cool effect if you could have it all pile up. Well, can you? I'll begin with the good. The severed limbs will stay for as long as the character stays. With the many points of amputation you have, it does very much add up. And as for the blood and bodies, what you mostly have is a limit, not a timer. As you can see, it isn't a terribly small one. You can have some mass, but you can't push it further and make it real messy. I think it is a missed opportunity. The mass seems to be client-side, it doesn't affect the gameplay, so I think that on your end, you should be able to configure the amounts and push it further if you wish. Also, unlike many games, here you have many chances to naturally make them go away. A large enough explosive could turn a body into just one large stain, and if terrain was deformed, any stains it had previously can just be entirely removed. A patch of land that had a dead bug and perhaps a few stains can now just have one single large stain. I think it is a win. That is, assuming they won't disappear. At the moment, the stains for obliteration and the stains for the acid bugs will disappear in about 45 seconds. So those do actually have a timer. As for the animations, what we have for the initial response and for death is pretty basic. But there is one very cool factor here, and that is bugs surviving limb dismemberment. Comes with the appropriate change of behavior and it all looks quite good. I even saw this for a head coming off, a last-ditch desperate effort attack. A way to support the channel is the Bila Konenka artwork store. The art is by my mom, I'm handling the fulfillment, and what I have featured today is a bit different. Some years ago there was a chess-themed art exhibition, and my mom's entry was chessboard animals. We figured they can be cool in mugs too, so recently we have added the zebra and the Dalmatian to our mug collection. So that is a way to support the channel, get something directly from me, and check out the store, we have a lot more there. The links are in the description. As for the robot characters, we have dismemberment here as well. They don't have as many limbs as the bugs, but in one case, I have seen 4 points of amputation. You also have heads coming off. And they can be cut in half. Now as for non-dismembering damage, my initial impression was that there isn't any, but apparently that isn't quite so. Like with the bugs, you also have it here only for the larger ones, but in this case the impact responses will disappear on the fatal hit. As for the environment aspect, it is pretty weird. The main response I saw is metal chunks getting spread around on the impact. Those vanish very quickly, but apparently they will bleed oil too. With those you also have some stains only for a very immediate response, but others will stick around for somewhat longer. Robot tracks, bodies-wise, it is pretty much the way we have it with the bugs. A certain threshold and limbs will stick around for as long as the wrecked robot will stay. As for the animations, there is basic shrugging for the initial impact, but on this you will have some longer wiggling around. Actually longer than what you'll see for the players. And as for surviving dismemberment, you will have it for the arms, but I haven't seen any legless or cut in half Terminators crawling around. Now as for the players, you have 1 point of amputation per limb. The head can come off. And players can be cut in half. All of those look quite cool, but my issue is with the response for explosives. What you have is activation of all of those pretty much every time. I don't think it looks quite good, and once again having it happen almost every time, that is the main issue for me. Now as for the non-dismembering damage, you just have an overlay on the character. No wounds, vocational damage, or anything along those lines. As for the blood spilling, it is very similar to what we have with the robots. You have a bunch of stains spawned on the impacts. I have seen at times a brief bleeding feature, but pretty much all of those vanish and you have one, maybe two, last for longer. As for the animations, you have a response on the impacts. You can get slowed down. There will be penalties for particularly bad hits. When sent flying, there is a wiggle animation. And on this you usually have just a very brief wiggle. In conclusion, there is more here than it initially seems. I will say overall the bug dismemberment is the best thing about the Gore here. Many points of amputation, many limbs, nice immediate effects for the spilling, changes of behavior, and what you get is very cool moments of just absolute carnage.
Get some!
but the robot and the player responses are not terribly exciting, and I do think there is a big miss out here with the aftermath. In the big picture, if your main draw here is only a responsive experience, I can't recommend it for that alone, gore or destruction wise. But if you find a game appealing, you will very much enjoy the response mechanics you have here. That is it for today. Do let me know how you feel in the comment section, and stay tuned tomorrow for the video on the destruction part of the game. Until next time.